In this lecture, we're going to see how we can pass parameters to a function by const reference. And this is going to prevent people from going through the reference to modify whatever your reference is referencing. Here is a simple example that is very similar to what we have been doing all along in this chapter. And on top here, you see that the syntax is saying const int reference. So this is a const reference here. And in a previous chapter, we have seen that you can't go through a const reference to modify the value your reference is referencing. If you go down here, you see that we have the same syntax. And in the body, if we try and do something like this, we're going to get a compiler error because we're trying to go through a const reference to modify the data that the reference is referencing. And this is the effect of a const reference. You use the const reference when you don't want people to modify the data the reference is referencing for whatever reasons that make sense for your application. Right now, we're going to head over to Visual Studio Code and set up this example and play with it. Okay, here we are in our working folder. The current project is passing by const reference 1711 here. We are going to grab our template files and we're going to put them in place. And next, we're going to open this up in Visual Studio Code. Let's do that. 1711. We open this. We're going to have our main CPP file here, and we are just going to replace in the code from the last lecture and use that as a starting point in this one. We don't want to retype all these things. What we want to look at in this lecture is passing by a const reference. And you set up a const reference by just adding a const in front of the declaration of the parameter here. So we say const int reference age. This is going to make this age here a const reference that we are passing as a parameter. We're going to do the same in our function definition here. And the moment we do this, we're going to be prevented from modifying this guy. We're going to get a compiler error. Let's try and bring in a terminal and show you what Visual Studio Code is saying is the problem. We can't go through this to modify the age. This is what Visual Studio Code is saying, but we can also try and build and see what GCC is going to say. We're going to get a compiler error, and the error is going to say increment of read-only reference age. We can't go through this reference to modify stuff. This reference is read-only, and this is what we want. We made this reference const because we want people to get a compiler error when they try to modify our data through this reference. And you can achieve this by using this setup here. And this is really all we set out to do in this lecture. Again, we are using a reference as a parameter, and we really have a clean syntax to use to call the function and use the parameter without going through ugly dereferencing like we did when we were passing parameters by pointer. Hopefully you can see that using reference is much cleaner. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to try and recap different ways we have to pass parameters to our functions. Because we have seen many ways to do that, we're going to try and recap and put these little things together so that you can really remember them. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.